If you can hear me, please send a message in the chat box before I continue. Okay, great. Chukwebuka, you can hear me. Nice. All right. Matthias can hear me also. Great. So, today's class, we are going to be talking about audience analysis and user-centered approach in technical writing. So the success of a technical document often depends on how well it resonates with its intended audience, right? So this principle of resonating properly with the intended audience is encapsulated in audience analysis and user-centered approach, which means the way your article, your writing in general will resonate with your intended audience will depend on how well you do this audience analysis and how you follow the user-centered approach by writing. Right? So it is used to craft documents that are not only informative but also tailored to the needs, expectations, and abilities of the target readers. Right? So what is audience analysis in technical writing? Audience analysis is the foundation upon which effective technical writing is built, right? It is the process of gathering and interpreting information about the audience for a particular document. It can be a blog, an article, a user guide, user manual, any document, right? So with the aim of understanding their characteristics, preferences, expectations, and needs. Without a comprehensive understanding of the audience, technical writers run the risk of creating content that is either too simplistic or too complex, which makes them fail to achieve the desired level of clarity and usefulness. So if your article is either too complex for the reader or too simple for the reader, they don't want to read it to the end because they feel like they are wasting a lot of time reading about what they already know, or they can't understand because there are a lot of things they don't already know already. You're assuming they know already. So the article will most likely be useless if you don't understand the audience that you're writing for. So here are some of the reasons why you should not skip audience analysis. So the whole when you're writing or when you want to write, you just want to get started as soon as possible. Like just start typing words immediately, but you should never skip audience analysis because it doesn't even involve a lot of work and gives you a lot of benefits. Right. So let's look at some of those reasons. This section. So tailoring content to the audience. One of the most compelling reasons for conducting audience analysis is to tailor the content to the audience's knowledge and expertise level. Right? In technical writing, there can be a wide range of readers from novices, intermediates to experts in the subject matter. So failing to consider this variation can either patronize or alienate the audience, right? So for example, imagine a user manual for a new smartphone. Suppose you as a writer assumes all the users of the user manual are tech savvy and familiar with the advanced smartphone features. You would most likely skip over crucial explanations, troubleshooting steps, and a lot of basic things, right? Which will end up frustrating and confusing less experienced users. In the other case, if the manual over explains every single feature in basic terms, it may bore and frustrate the tech-savvy users of the manual, right? So by conducting audience analysis, you can identify the spectrum of expertise within the audience and strike a balance in the content. What because so in that way, you are offering straightforward explanations for beginners and advanced tips for the experts. So that's one way to like strike a balance. You can create like a section for experienced users or advanced users of the manual that you can just read through and get what they want easily while keeping the thorough explanations for beginners that may not know a lot of things already on this platform. The or I'm not ready manual before because another thing in this case is when someone has read the whole manual and just needs like some things, they can just go to the advanced section to read what they need and skip the explanations. So this is one of the benefits and one of the reasons why you should not skip audience analysis when you're writing technical. So another reason is addressing audience needs and expectations. Right. So understanding the specific needs and expectations of the reader should not be overlooked when creating technical content because different audiences may have various reasons for reading a technical document. Some might be seeking detailed technical specifications, while others may be looking for step-by-step instructions on how to use a product, on how to build a particular thing using the product, so on. Right. So by identifying the needs and expectations of the audience, you as a technical writer can structure your documents to address those needs and expectations directly. So for instance, when writing a software manual for a graphic design application, by conducting audience analysis, you can determine that professionals require in-depth tutorials on advanced features, and at the same time, hobbyists or beginners might need more user-friendly explanations and guidance on the basics, right? So addressing the audience needs and expectations is very key, right? And without audience analysis, you can't do that. So the next one on the list is adapting tone and style. Right. So the tone and style of a technical document play a pivotal role in engaging the audience. Right. So audience analysis helps you choose the appropriate tone, language, style that resonates with the readers. Right. So for instance, a document intended for a highly technical and specialized audience may use industry-specific jargon and a formal tone, while being rest assured that the audience and the readers can understand, right? On the other hand, a document targeting general audience, which means like beginners, intermediate, and experts at the same time, would try to use plain language and a more conversational tone to be able to pass points across and explain complex topics in detail, right? So, how do you conduct audience analysis in technical writing? So, the first step is to begin by identifying who the intended readers of the document are, right? So, this includes researching demographic information such as education level, job title, industry, and so on, right? So, understanding the demographics would help you in creating a preliminary profile of the audience. Right. So the next one is determine the audience prior knowledge. So assessing the audience prior knowledge and expertise in the topic or subject matter that you're trying to write about is crucial in determining whether the document should be introductory, intermediate, or advanced in its approach. So this step can include conducting surveys, interviews, or analyzing data about the audience's background. Right. So when, for example, when writing a tutorial on how to build something in Golang, you can try to assess the audience prior knowledge by saying that, okay, does this person already know the basics of Go? Do they have they built anything in Go before so they can understand how to structure their project, so you can know what to skip and what to include, right? So determining the audience's prior knowledge will help you do this. The next one is identify the audience's needs and goals. So find out what the audience hopes to achieve by reading the document. And most companies would require you to write this when pitching an article or submitting an outline. So they will ask you questions like, what do you, what is the reader going to get out of reading this article? Like something in that, something like that, right? So when conducting audience analysis, you need to find out what the audience hope to achieve by reading the document. Are they seeking information, instructions, troubleshooting guidance, or something else? So you need to figure out what that thing is, right? So understanding their needs and goals would help you to align the content with their expectations, right? So you need to identify their needs and their goals. So the next one is consider the audience's attitudes and values, right? So you need to evaluate the attitudes, values, and beliefs of the audience that might impact their reception of the content, right? So, for example, if the audience has a strong security consciousness, maybe you are writing something, you are writing about a product in cryptocurrency or Web3 and all of that. So you know that in this industry that you're writing about, security is a big concern for most users of your product, right? So if the audience has a strong security consciousness, the technical document related to the product should definitely highlight its cybersecurity features to make them feel comfortable and at home with the product, so they are sure that okay, their their assets are saving, whether it's the wallet or your app, the product in general, right? So when you consider the audience attitudes and values, you can chip in some things that might sway them to try out your product. Another good example is in cases where maybe you are working you are working on an article about a mining product. So most people reading the article might be interested in how you are considering sustainability and maybe global warming and all of that in your business. So you might just put in those details on how you are working on those aspects to make them feel at home that okay, by using your product, they are not endangering the planet and that. Right? So that's that. So the next one is analyzing the audience reading preferences. So you need to determine how the audience prefer to consume information, because some readers may prefer printed documents while others might prefer digital formats. In the cases of preferring digital documents, a good example is when you're writing about maybe a user manual for for a fan or a thermostat, something like that, right? So printed documents are very, very good in this case because some of the audiences they don't have like smartphones or like they might not have access to digital format of it, right? So you might want to like when you after determining the way your audience prefers to consume information, I decide to okay, let's print this document or put it on our website, right? So you need to also consider whether the audience prefer concise information or appreciates detailed explanations. So when you analyze the audience's reading preferences, you get to know how to go about these things, right? So the next one is creating the audience principles. So to make the audience analysis more tangible, you can create audience personas. Audience personas are fictional but representative characters that embody the key characteristics and needs of the audience segment identified. So, for example, you have technical product, for example, Flutterwave, right? So you're writing about a particular SDK of Flutterwave that a Go developer can use the SDK to implement payment integration in their app. Right? So you can create a persona that looks like okay, this is Femi, he's an intermediate developer, he needs to like integrate Flutterwave into his Go application. He knows about the basics of Go already. Right? So there are going to be like different sections or even different articles for Femi. So you can just create that persona and give it to writers that okay, this is the person you're writing for. And they will just go through it and see that okay, he knows about Golang already, he knows how to set up his project and everything. So the things I just need to explain are how we can get his API keys, like Flutterwave specific instructions are what I need to focus on instead of like teaching him how to build the product he's building, right? So personas provide a clear reference point for tailoring content. You know that okay, this is the person I'm writing for. He knows these things, he does not know these things. So you just use that to fix part of your articles to fit this person. So you know that when you release the article, you are sure that Femi or whoever is using the article is going to find it useful and helpful. Right. So that's how about how to conduct audience analysis in technical writing. So at this point, we've talked about different things. So you can start dropping your questions if you have the chat box. So moving forward, let's talk about user-centered approach in technical writing. So the user-centered approach is an extension of audience analysis that puts the audience needs and preferences at the forefront of the document creation process. Right. So it's a philosophy that acknowledges that the document is not just a piece of information, but a tool designed to serve the reader to achieve whatever task or goal they have at hand. Right. So how to use user-centered approach in technical writing. I've explained a very good example with the whole Femi and the user persona, when creating user persona. So when you have someone like Femi, that you know that okay, this is the person you are writing for, you have to have Femi in mind at every step of your writing. This includes outlining, drafting, editing, reviewing. So everything you do while creating this content for Femi, Femi should always be on your mind. So this is what user-centered approach is in technical writing. So how to use it is prioritizing clarity and accessibility. So when you have Femi in mind, you know that you need to write in a way that it is clear to Femi, and this guides you when you have to use jargon and where you have to provide explanations, because you know what Femi knows and you know what he doesn't know, right? So user-centered approach helps you use clear and concise language where necessary, avoid unnecessary jargon, provide explanations when technical terms are unavoidable, and all of that. So you just have in mind at every point of the way. So the goal is to ensure that all readers, regardless of their prior knowledge, understand the content, right? But in this case, where you've already conducted the audience analysis and you've created like a user persona, you know that okay, your user persona is Femi who knows about Golang, knows how to structure his Go project, and knows how to write Go very well. So you know that you just need to explain specific Flutter Wave or whatever product you're writing about, instructions in the article, right? So when you prioritize clarity and accessibility by using user-centered approach, you know that you are writing for Femi at every point in time. So you, anytime you look at the persona, Femi's persona, you know that Femi does not understand these things. So you know that automatically you need to like simplify the concept or whatever you're trying to get across to him, because you know that Femi does not know this thing. So just writing this way would most likely confuse him. So that would drive you to just go back and fix that part to make sure that okay, anyone that looks like Femi has same knowledge as Femi would understand what you've written. Right? That's just one part. Then structuring information effectively. So incorporating a logical and user-friendly structure is another attribute of the user-centered approach, right? Technical documents should be organized in a way that aligns with how the audience thinks and seeks information, right? So, for example, in Femi's case, he already knows um, Golang, knows how to build his app, and just needs your product instructions and how to use your product, right? So you already know that this person is seeking information on the product and not how to build the product, right? So you can just structure the information, the article, the user manual in a way that he understands, right? So structuring information effectively, as we've seen in previous classes, involves using headings, subheadings, bullet points, numbered lists to break down complex information into digestible chunks, right? So these things, you use them where necessary, where you know that, okay, this is necessary for the audience to know. Because remember, you already know your audience, so you are putting them at the center of everything you are doing. So if bullet points are going to be confusing for them, you know that, okay, you have to use numbered lists, right? So if headings are not necessary at that point, you know you have to remove them because you already know who you are writing for. So using user-centered approach in technical writing helps you structure information effectively while tailoring it to the audience, right? So providing context and examples is the next one. So user-centered technical writing doesn't just provide information. You also know that you need to provide context and examples to help readers apply the information, right? So you know your audience already, you know that okay, they are going to understand this better if I frame this explanation this way, or add an example for them to understand better, because you already know them and you know what they know, what they don't know, and you're working with that, right? So Real world scenarios, case studies, and practical examples can make the content more relatable and actionable. Right. So using user-centered approach also helps you offer multiple access points. Right. So by recognizing that different readers have different needs, user-centered technical documents often provide multiple access points to information. This can include adding a table of contents, an index, a glossary, and cross-references to related sections in the document, right? So you know who you are writing for already. Again, you know who you are writing for already. You know what they know, you know what they don't know. So in case where you are um you are writing for a wide range of audience. Like you have different user personas that you've created from your audience analysis step. You have Femi, you have Shelly, you have Rebecca, you have Ruth, and they all have different knowledge, different experiences, and they want to achieve different things. So in cases where all of them are using the same document, you need to know that okay, I need in this case I need to include a table of contents. So everyone can just see through what the document contains and go to that point and do whatever they need to do without having to read through the whole document, article, or tutorial, right? So you can include a glossary if you feel the need and even cross-reference to related sections. Okay, you're talking about this thing, but you don't have the space or time to start explaining because again, the document caters to a wide range of audience. So you can just add references to related section that where they can go and read and then come back to like understand what they are reading. So these features empowers your readers to navigate the document efficiently. So these particular points of offering multiple access points in the document also puts the user at the forefront of your writing. Like, okay, you know that these are the people that are using this article. You have them in mind. You are considering Femi, Rebecca, Ruth, and everyone while writing because you know that this document caters to all of them. So you by offering multiple access points, you are using user-centered approach in your writing. So the next one is usability testing. So a crucial aspect of the user-centered approach is usability testing. This involves having members of the target audience review and interact with the documents to identify any usability issue, confusion points, or areas where improvements can be made. So, in your audience analysis, you might have talked to some of the target audience for the article, like one or two people that you know that they are probably going to use this document to work. You can send your document to them, your article, your story, and your blog to them for them to read and say that, okay, I don't understand this part. And you know that since this person does not understand this part, majority of the intended audience are also going to have problem with their part. So you just have to take their feedback and go back to the document to refine it to the point that they are not confused, they are able to use it and they know that these documents will work for them, right? So usability testing is a very crucial aspect of user-centered approach because again, it's all about putting your audience first in everything you are doing, your document, be it writing, including diagrams, using tables, lists, everything you are doing, you are putting your user first to make sure that okay, this document will be useful for them. Right. So the next thing on the list is iterative improvement. So when using user-centered approach in your technical writing, automatically you understand that technical writing is an iterative process, right? So feedback from users is used to refine and improve the document continuously, because you know that your audience, your readers are also like improving, or your product is also improving, right? So every time your product includes some new concept or new solution, you know that you need to go back to the document to make sure that your audience are going to understand and not get confused when using your document, right? So this ongoing improvement ensures that the document remains aligned with the evolving needs of the audience, right? So that is how to make sure you are using user-centered approach in your technical writing process. So the next one on the list is benefits of user-centered approach in technical writing. So these are some of the things that you get when you put your users first, your readers first, your audiences first when writing technical articles and technical content in general. So can you guys still hear me? Please drop a message if you can hear me, because I have not done that check for a while now. Okay, okay, great, great. Thank you, Anila. Thank you, Redon. So let's continue. So user satisfaction. So when you put your audiences first when writing technical documents, your readers, your audiences are more likely to find your documents and content helpful and easy to understand. Because remember, you had them in mind throughout your content creation process. So this leads to increased user satisfaction and positive perception of the product or service being described. So when they know that, okay, these guys have good documentation, they are very, very, very likely to buy your new products, because they know that they'll have like a good time and easy process when implementing it or using it in general, right? So your users are going to be more satisfied with your product or your service. The next one is reduced support and training costs. So a well-crafted user-centered document can significantly reduce the need for customer support and training. So when someone goes to your documentation and they're able to like do everything they need to do and find all the information they need to use your product, which means they are not confused in the process. The instructions are easy to follow and everything just works great. They don't need to reach out to your customer support, or you don't need to like train users rigorously before they can use your product, because they know that they can just find answers to their questions in the documentation, which means they are less likely to seek assistance, saving both time and resources. So you are going to, when you focus on users when creating your technical content, you are going to reduce the need for customer support, because you can just have one person that is most likely not doing anything. And even when they are doing something, they are doing significant tasks, not repetitive tasks that the customer would have been able to solve if you had crafted your documents with them in mind, right? So reduce support and training costs is a significant benefit you get when you write and create documents and content with your users in mind. So the next one is improved product adoption. So the attendance link is in the chat box now. So you can just go ahead and fill that up. So improved product adoption. User-centered documentation and content can facilitate adoption of products or services, right? So when users can quickly grasp how to use a product or understand its benefits, they are more likely to embrace it and become loyal customers because they know that I don't need to like contact um, customer service to solve my issues because I already have the document. Because contacting support is not something people like to do. I personally don't like to do that because it takes hours, and that just means you sitting and waiting for a response in most cases because a lot of if a company does not have good documentation, they are they most likely also don't have good customer service, right? So once I can get useful documentation from your website, I just move to another product that does the same thing, but with a good documentation that I can use and not contact customer support because that's a long process and I don't have the time, right? So focusing on your users and your audiences would help improve product adoption because you know that once I go to the documentation, I can do whatever I need to do easily and quickly. So they're saving time and moving fast in whatever they're trying to do. So the next one is brand loyalty and trust, right? So organizations that consistently provide user-centered documentation are indirectly demonstrating their commitment to customer satisfaction. So by you are not saying you put your customer satisfaction like first, but from what you already did with your documentation, your article, your content, you're already like demonstrating that to them because as always, show, don't tell, right? Works every time. So this fosters brand loyalty and trust as users feel that the organization values their needs and strives to meet them, right? So people trust your brand and are loyal when they know that I can just go to the documentation and get whatever I want to get done. I can just read this person's article and I'm sure that they answer all the questions that I need, right? That I need answers to, right? So the next one is compliance and safety. So in fields where safety and compliance are paramount, such as healthcare, aerospace, and engineering, user-centered documentation can be a matter of life and death, right? For example, when you write for engineering companies that produce factory robots, right? When or in case of accidents and maybe one of the robots grabbing a factory worker by the head or something, they can just quickly go to the documentation, the manual for the robot to turn it off, to safely remove the person. So in that case, your writing has helped to avoid a possible death, right? So clear and accurate instructions are essential in such cases to ensure safe and compliant practices, right? So the last one on the list is competitive advantage. In a competitive market, user-centered documentation can be a key differentiator. I've mentioned this earlier too. I mentioned this earlier about going to another provider that has better documentation instead of sticking with yours, because I'm probably paying you for your product or service, so I should not have a hard time using it. So if you don't have good documentation, I just move to a brand or a company that has a good and better documentation. So organizations that invest in creating superior technical documents gain a competitive advantage by offering a superior user experience, because users are just going to be pleased with the whole experience of using your product, because you've given them the product and you've given them everything they need to use the product. So that's there's no better experience than that in that case. So that is all for today. As usual, I'm going to drop the slides, but if you have any questions now, drop them in the chat box or unmute yourself to speak so you can just go through them. So while we're waiting for that, kindly fill the attendance form that's in the chat box. So drop your questions. So while you guys are typing your questions or thinking about what to ask, you had some links in the slides for the last lesson. So I'd like everyone to unmute themselves to share one or two things they learned from the articles and tutorials that I linked. So if you don't have any questions, just unmute yourself and tell us what you learned from the reading you did over the weekend. Because I remember saying we are going to discuss the readings in today's class. So let's have it. Or you guys did not read, because that was supposed to be your task for last week. So I'm assuming you guys read. So let's just have. So you can unmute yourself and speak. Abdul Mujib, Abdul Rahim, what do you have for us from what you read over the weekend?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good
Uh,
afternoon.
Good afternoon. I went through the 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 link you dropped the other time. So I'm currently sorry.
Okay. I should add that if you have any questions about what you read, so you can
Okay, no
include
problem.
them. Okay.
Okay. I read through the paragraphs. The links talking about the paragraph, how paragraphs should be written, how sentences should be formed, how paragraphs should be formed with sentence, how the first sentence should talk more about what the paragraph is about. Like it should be the main point. I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I also read through I read through the how to make the list. I don't think that one is on it, Sha, but I went through it. How to make a list. How list
Okay.
should be parallel. It
How
should
linked should be?
should be parallel. Yeah, like if you want to, how list rather, list should be parallel. If you want to make a list, if it's going to be like a command or a sentence, it should be sentence throughout. And if it's going to be like a just command or something like that, it should be throughout. And there are some various type of lists, the ordered list and ordered list. How ordered list is used for if you are to make steps, like if you are going to, if it is about step, like you have to follow a specific step, like it should be named, like it should be numbered, number one, number two, and so on like that. The other one on the bullet embedded list or bullet list rather, like it is not necessarily like it should be followed at the way I wrote it. Sha. So it is just command or something to be carried out, which is not necessarily to be followed the way it's written. I think that's all. The only thing I don't really understand is the document. If you can buttress on the document part, that's all. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can have,
Yeah, so what questions do you have about the
like the
documents?
document, like can you go through the document part of it? I don't really understand.
Okay, you don't have a specific question on that.
Yeah, like I want to ask. I don't have a specific question, but if you can go through the documents, like try to explain it. I don't really know what it's about. I don't get the point about it.
Okay, in that case, that you don't have a specific
Like
question, I would
the
advise
link,
that you go through the slides from last week.
no,
We
the link,
discussed,
no, sorry, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. From the link you dropped the other time,
yes,
there is link for clear sentence, link for documents, right?
yes.
And the link for the documents, that's what I'm talking about. You can go through it.
Okay, you want me to explain everything about that part? I
Yeah,
don't.
or just some important part of it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you, that since you don't have a specific question, there's
Yeah.
a slide from last week class, I think first day or second day, that talks about documents in general.
Oh, okay.
So there are like types of documents, when you should use certain type of documents and all of that from that
Okay.
slide. So I'll try to drop it again for you. You can send me a message on Zoom. So I drop it for you
Okay. Thank
because
you.
I'm not sure what day of the week it is. I'm not sure whether it's day one, day two, or day three. So you can just message me about that, because since you don't have a specific question, it will take a lot of time for me to like explain the whole thing when I've already done that and you have the slide. So, but in
Okay.
case you don't know which slide, I'm going to send it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's fine. Yeah, you're
Right.
welcome. Thank you so much for sharing what you've learned with us. So next on the list I'm seeing here is Benjamin. So, Mr. Benjamin, you can, or Mrs. Benjamin, you can unmute yourself to tell us what you learned over the weekend, like one or two things. Is Mr. Benjamin with us? Some of you are running away. Why are you running? Okay. Okay. So the next on the list is Blessing Aigbato. I hope I didn't murder your name. So if you can, please share some things you learned from last topic. It does not have to be like exactly what you read, but just one or two things that you learned from what you read. So kindly unmute yourself to speak. So we're 15 before, we are 12 now. I'm not getting it. You guys didn't read or what? Also, I understand that some of you might not be able to like talk where you are. So if that's you, just drop a message that you can't talk or something like that. All right. So Mr. Chukwebuka, would you like to like tell us what you learned from last week's reading? Because that was your tasks for last week. So please, thank you.
Yeah, can you all hear me? Good afternoon.
Too. I can hear you, and I
Yeah,
believe others can too.
yeah. So me, I've been taking notes since we started the class. So I sincere apologies. I didn't read the link last weekend because we've been on power outage for 5 days now, and it has not been repaired. I'm just lucky to be in class today, anyways. But since I joined the class, I've been taking notes, and I still have like summaries of like things I've learned, right? So I maybe I can still like, am I permitted to still highlight what I've learned since we started, or maybe I can as well deliver my next class after I've studied it?
Sure, sure, sure. Please do that now. Tell us some of the things you've learned.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
sorry, another reason why I'm doing this is, some people watch these lessons and classes on YouTube.
yeah,
So it won't just be only me that I'm talking. You guys should
yeah.
also input here. So thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So the part where we talked about jargon in technical writing, where we dissected active voice and passive voice, where we said active voice constitutes a subject, a verb, and an object, while a passive voice constitutes an object, a verb, and optionally a subject. So the striking difference was that a passive voice can still be complete without a subject. So an instance of an active voice, I would say the engineer killed the cat. Then that of the passive voice was the cat was killed by an engineer. So the engineer being the subject is also optional because the sentence can also be complete without putting the engineer, and that of the passive voice. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Then I also learned some tips to like improve consistency in like technical writing, like the importance of following style guides. And of course there are various style guides that you can be able to like adopt in the course of your technical writing. The use of templates, creating glossaries, checking spellings, use of like consistent terminologies and the likes. So summarily, right? First of all, I would say spanning from getting to know what content writing is all about, the ability to like break complex languages into like understandable bits to enable the user like use them effectively up until uh today we discussed user-centered approach in technical writing. I think these are just very few points I think I must have grabbed while indulging myself in the class.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I pray and hope that your power outage issue is resolved as soon as possible. So thank
Amen.
you.
Amen. Thank you.
Right. So Miss Confidence is your marker. Would you like to like share with us what you learned from last week's reading? Can be a single thing, can be two things. Just unmute yourself and tell us about that. Thank you. I'm not sure Mrs. Miss Confidence is here with us. So I'll move on to Destiny Nwebe. So you can unmute yourself and tell us about what you've learned over the weekend from the links. Also, also, it can be things you've picked from the previous classes, right? Okay, but you really can't. Okay, Destiny Webe said they can't speak right now, so thank you for that. So, Elizabeth Momo, you are the next person on this list. So, please unmute yourself and tell us about what you learned from last week's reading. One or two things. Oh, Elizabeth Momo said they are in a noisy environment, so they can't speak now. Okay, cool. Eniola Badijo. I can't see Eniola Badijo again. Yes, sure, you can type it. You can type it since you can't speak. Just type it for us. Thank you. So, Janet Adesua. Oh, Melissa. Melissa says she just joined. Okay. So, Melissa, welcome. We are talking about the links I gave as task last week, at the end of last week, the last class slide. Right. So you can also tell us one or two things you learned from the reading you did. So thank you. But the next person on my list here is Janet Adesua Gabriel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. Please, Chukwebuka, you can leave. Yes, I understand. You can leave. And thank you for attending today's class. And I hope you ensure you fill the attendance form before you leave. So thank you. Please continue. Please go ahead.
Okay. What I've learned from so far from last week was on jargons. Jargons are actually supposed to help technical writers to convey complex ideas, but if used wrongly again, it will only cause confusion and make your information more complicated than it's supposed to be. So I learned that we as technical writers should actually understand our audience to know when to use jargons and when not to use jargons. Briefly, what I understood. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. The next person on my list is Jennifer Mbono. So kindly unmute yourself and tell us some of the things you learned. Okay. Melissa says she did not know that we were to review it today, but I thought I mentioned it that we would like discuss the links today, but it's okay. I'll I'll ask you for what you learned from them, maybe on Wednesday or Friday. So yeah. So Jennifer Mbono, if you can, please unmute yourself and tell us about the things you learned from last week's reading.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I was trying to type because I couldn't speak. But however, I didn't review any of the materials. I didn't know I was supposed to. I don't think I attended the last class either. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer and Bruno. Thank you for that. But you got the slides, right?
Yeah, I can see there on the chart. Thank
Okay,
you.
but you didn't review them.
No,
Okay,
no, no, I didn't repeat that.
all right. Okay, you can speak.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Adams, for today's class. It was amazing. I just want to speak with regards to what is going on right now. So everyone, the reason why we're having this training is to help people transition into tech and help them learn. And that's why we even have the certification process where we want to ensure that everybody that goes through this training learns what is being taught, like they have the knowledge of what is being taught. These slides are being like your facilitators are taking time to actually create these slides, times and effort are taken into doing this for you. And it is like seeing that is asking everyone, okay, what have you learned? How did you review the class? And nobody has seen anything to say apart from a few people. Please let's do better. The reason, like, it will be like a motivator for him too if he knows that his students are actually learning, they're going back, they have questions to ask for him and things like that. Please let's do better. I hope by the next class it will be much more better than this. And as regards to what we said at the beginning, at the orientation period, attendance, and we'll also be having assessments. I'm sure Adams would relay more about the assessment before the end of this week. So we'll be having assessments so to gauge everybody's um, learn what they've learned during the period of this training. That would determine if you would get certificated or not. So it's not just about signing the attendance, it's also about what you learned. Thank you very much, Adam. You can continue.
Thank you so much for that, Aisha. So yeah, okay, the next person on my list is Mutiat Adepoju. So Mutiat,
Good afternoon, everybody.
good afternoon.
Yeah, I went through the notes, I mean the links. So about on lists, on the how to choose correct type of list, we have the bulleted list, the numbered one, and the embedded one. So to use the bulleted one, like if you just want to like give instruction that is not that you don't need to follow step by step, but if it's the one that you have to do step by step, number one, go to the kitchen, number two, do this. Like when you want the person to follow it step by step, the numbered list it is the right one to use. And the embedded one, I don't really know it on I don't really understand it like that. Well, I'm hoping I will go through the note again. Then I went through the what you taught us last week. So about the what is it called? How to improve clarity in technical writing and everything. Kind of, yeah. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mutiat. Thank you so much for that. So embedded lists, I believe, means like lists that are within lists. So maybe you have you want to list a step-by-step process, and one of the step-by-step process also has like step-by-step process. right? So you need to like embed those lists inside one another to be able to convey that these particular steps are within this step and not the next step you need to take. So you can just review that again, and we'll talk more about that later this week also. So thank you so much for that, Mutiat. So yes, I'm resending the. You're welcome, Mutiat. I'm resending the attendance link now for you, Elizabeth. Yeah. So Elizabeth said she learned about the style guide, how they help with consistency in style and tone, regardless of how many contributors are on a team, right? So to draft a writing style guide, we need to put into consideration the brand's mission and values, define the company's voice and tone. Thirdly, use a style guide template and use guidelines for formatting. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Elizabeth Momo. Thank you. So Mr. Okoro Anointing, I believe you've not shared what you learned with us, so please go ahead. Thank you.
All right. So good day, everybody, once again.
Good day.
This is just basically about what we have learned thus far, even last week. I just want to say I learned basically on the tips to improve consistency in technical writing, tips to improve conciseness, clarity, and correctness. I know we talked about the four C's: conciseness, correctness, clarity, and consistency. So it was quite insightful because I actually learned how to follow a style guide, checking spelling and capitalization, using templates, some consistent terminologies too. Then in the aspect of improving conciseness, I learned how to use active voice, then how to avoid redundancy by eliminating unnecessary words or phrases that can repeat a particular information, a particular statement. Then also you talked about removing filler words. Yeah, I think you mentioned really, using a word like really. Say they don't really add vital information or meaningful information. Then also on the aspect of clarity, you talked about how it can improve clarity of technical writing. So I would say amongst many other things I've learned, this one actually stood out really for me. Then I think that's just that basically.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Okoro Anointing. Thank you really for that. Right. So shows that you learned a lot, you were following, and that's impressive. Thank you. The next person on my list is Ridwan Adeni. So Mr. Ridwan Adeni or Mrs. Ridwan Adeni, please tell us what you learned from the reading you did over the weekend. You can unmute yourself and speak.
All right. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm so sorry. I did not go. I was not able to go through everything. Just staggered because since Thursday we've been having light issues around here. So I was only able to go to style guide yesterday, and I learned. I was able to understand this better because you already taught style guide on Friday. So I was able to understand better it adds to how it adds consistency and tone to the technical document, the documentation, and um how should I put it? How to use the style guide when writing your technical document. But I'm confused. I don't know. Is CLI a type of programming language? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. A CLI means a command line interface, and it is usually used to run commands. Like you can use CLIs to create files, as programmers don't use the interface much, so they can just run one command to create folders, files, and basically do anything and everything with CLIs. So CLI means command line interface.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
you're welcome. There are some applications that are also called CLI apps. So such applications might help you check IP addresses on your laptop, like your local ports and every other thing that relates to your computer. So yes, that's what CLI is about.
All right. Thank you. Aside company style guide, are there like general style guide that is available to just anybody that someone can visit and use for a technical document?
Yes, and I believe that the last class or the class where we discussed about style guides, I included links to at least 4 style guides. I believe the number is 6. So all those style guides are available for you to use for free. So
Okay.
yeah, they're usually like documentation on websites. So you just go there and read about them.
All
So
right.
yeah. So all of them
I'll
are free.
all right. I'll try to go through the rest of the links.
Yes. And another thing I think I should mention is when going through the slides, any colored text is a link.
Okay.
So
Yes.
any text that is colored is a link. So the names of the style guides that I described and talked about in that class, the names on the slides are links. So you can just click on the name of Apple Developer Documentation Style Guide or Apple Style Guide, and it will take you to the style guide. Same with Google and every other style guide there.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I also hope and pray to resolve your light issues as soon as possible. So
No, thank you.
you're welcome. So yes, I believe that should be all. And you guys, please, let's do better, as Aisha said. So that will be the end of today's session. And Melissa, I'll ask you about the links on Wednesday or Friday, whichever day I remember. So
All right. Please, what's on the screen? Would we not go over what's on the screen?
we've already done that before you joined, but again, the slides will be available to you and the
Okay.
recording also. So you can just go through those two, the slides and the video, and anything you don't understand, you can always drop it on the group chat and we'll talk about it.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome. Again, I would like to say, let's do more of the group chat when we want to ask questions. So someone else might have that question and they will just have the answer without needing to like DM me and all of that. So thank you so much everyone for joining today's class, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.